Hi, everybody, and welcome into the SunDevilSource series recap. I'm Ethan Tuttle, joined alongside Cole Bradley. We just wrapped up Arizona State's 4-1 victory over Washington State that completed the series sweep here on Saturday afternoon. Cole, the Sun Devils improved to 23-9 overall, 10-2 in conference play, and that's the fastest they've reached 10 conference wins since 2009. Let's go ahead and break it all down, starting off with Christian Curtis on the mound. He had 8 strikeouts, went 6 innings, got the win. What were your thoughts on his performance?
He was electric, Ethan. It was probably the most electric he's been since transferring to ASU. He started to look a lot like the guy the coaching staff pegged him to be, the Saturday guy, over his last 3 outings, and that sort of culminated today against Washington State, where he pitched a career-high 6 innings, obviously, and struck out 8 batters. Didn't run into those lapses in command he's had frequently in the past. He only walked 1 batter. That really impressed me today, and that's also really impressed me with regards to just the pitching staff as a whole over the last couple weeks. They've been able to limit these walks for the most part. Curtis was able to do that today, and it was the biggest key in helping ASU secure the series sweep. He kind of had to bulldog his way through the 6th inning, as he would say, which was his final inning. He was dealing with 2 runners in scoring position after giving up a solo homer to begin the inning. Bloomquist comes out, wants to take the ball from him. Curtis stone faces him and says no. And Bloomquist talked a lot about how that kind of determination and the drive to want the ball in your hand has really stuck out to him, not only about Curtis, but just about the team as a whole. He ended up striking out Cam McGee, former Sun Devil Cam McGee, to end the inning. It seemed fitting. And it sort of put the finishing touches on what was a truly stellar outing for Curtis.
Yeah, you talk about the determination of Curtis. It seems like there's still a lot of determination in the eyes of Willie Bloomquist. Afterwards, the media spoke to him in the post-game press conference. Several questions coming at him about, the achievements that they've made so far, the stepping stones that they've kind of took over the offseason to bring them to this point so far in the season. But he was just saying, Cole, it's eyes ahead and eyes focused on the next game. So what are your thoughts on Willie Bloomquist post-game kind of with those comments, and what do you take from all that?
It just reflects this willingness to, try and get the program back to a level that it hasn't been in so long. ASU hasn't reached Omaha since 2010. It's been a very long time for a program that always has very sizable expectations to be one of the best in the country. Bloomquist wants that to be the case in the standard. He wants to return it to that standard, and part of getting there is not being satisfied with wins or just simply winning in general, especially when you're just a little over halfway through your season. So, yeah, the 23-9 start is great. The 10 wins, in conference play and being tied atop the conference with Stanford is great, but it's not enough for him. And it won't be enough until he actually sees this team fulfill his vision of returning to national prominence and being a team that can compete for national titles. And he's starting to get his guys to buy into that as well. We've talked to players about it as well. They say the same thing. We're just moving on to the next game. We're just going to take this one and move on to the next game. We're going to use it as a learning experience, and we're going to move on and try to continuously improve. And I think that, among so many other things this season, has really stuck out to me, not only about Bloomquist, but just about the team in general. They're just genuinely not satisfied with where they're at right now. And they believe in themselves, and they believe they're capable of so much more and going so much further. And we'll see if that happens. And if it doesn't, the mindset is still there. And that's not something that easily goes away. And a lot of these guys will probably return next year. We'll see what happens. But they're setting a foundation. They're laying a foundation for what Arizona State baseball wants to return to in the near future. And I think it seriously is time to start, dreaming again of maybe returning to that level they haven't been in a long time very, very soon.
Yeah, this team has played so well in conference. Once again, we talk about that 10-2 conference record, but one of the big caveats to that has been that they haven't had the toughest competition here at the front half of the season. With the back half of the season on the way, they've got some of the best opponents in the Pac-12 upcoming. So what do the Sun Devils have to look at with these upcoming opponents, and what do they need to focus on down the stretch towards the end of the season?
Well, this is where being unsatisfied becomes very important, Ethan. It's, they've got the next 5 games on the road against GCU, at Washington for a 3-game set in Seattle, and then they go to Tucson to play Arizona before coming home to play Oregon State. That's a very tough stretch right there to sort of get into the meat of your schedule that they've been anticipating for a while now. I mean, they've referenced multiple times. Yeah, we had the tough non-conference slate with Oklahoma State and going to Starkville to play Mississippi State, but those games were merely preparing them for what they're going to have to face now in the back half of this schedule. They've probably played, I'd say, the bottom 4 teams in the conference to this point, which, as you can imagine, makes it easy to realize why they've been able to win their first 4 series in consecutive fashion. Now it's going to get a lot harder, and now this is where this team is going to have to prove themselves and say, hey, we're not a fluke. This start isn't a fluke. We are capable of being a lot better than a lot of outside perception has sort of pegged us to be. And that's really where it's going to be a prove-it test for them. They're going to have to play Stanford towards the end of the year. USC, which has surprised a lot of people this season. They've played atop the Pac-12. They were not expected to be there. And they've played really good teams tough. So that's significant as well. And then they end the regular season with UCLA. It's going to be difficult, Ethan. And if this team is as good as it believes itself to be, they're going to have to prove it against those teams.
All right, well, thank you so much for the breakdown, Cole. Once again, that's Cole Bradley. I'm Ethan Tuttle. This was the SunDevilSource series wrap-up as ASU takes down Washington State 4-1 here on Saturday. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.